Welcome to On the Frontline, the Military Rec Show, where we spotlight the professionals strengthening the quality of life for our military communities. Hosted by John Prue, MWR leader with nearly 40 years of service supporting Navy and military communities worldwide. In this episode, in recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month, we're diving into one of the most important conversations in military recreation, managing stress in high-pressure environments. Joining us are Dr. Trambadia, a clinical psychologist, and Thomas White, Deputy Administrator for Henry County Parks and Recreation and host of Safe Spaces and Green Spaces. Together, we'll explore practical strategies for building resilience, preventing burnout, and supporting both ourselves and those we serve. This is On the Front Line, powered by the DPRS Media Network. Let's dive in.
All right, it is 13:30 Tuesday, 12 May 2026, and you are on the front line. My name is John Prue, as the host of this weekly podcast focused on armed forces or military recreation. We talk to professionals in the industry who, in some way, are making a difference in the quality of life of our military and their families. For all of you out there, you might be a morale, welfare, and recreation or MWR professional who directly supports quality of life of our military and families each and every day. Maybe you are or have been in the military and a user of MWR programs and services at some point, and we thank you for your service. Perhaps you're a business or organization which directly supports or wants to support our armed forces recreation professionals around the globe. You might just be a public parks and recreation professional curious about that thing called military recreation and what it's all about. Or perhaps you don't fit into any of those categories and you just tuned in. Either way, welcome. Welcome to On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show. As you know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So today we'll be focusing and talking about dealing with stress in stressful environments. Today we have Dr. Trambadia and Thomas White from Henry County, Georgia, also a host of another DPRS podcast, Safe Spaces and Green Spaces. Anyways, this is going to be a really impactful show, and I'm super excited. As you know, we are part of an amazing media company called Daily Parks and Rec Show, or DPRS. DPRS Media exists to honor the park and recreation industry, reflecting on the stories and highlighting the careers and celebrating the real pros out there doing the essential work in our communities. And yes, that includes our military communities. Want to give a shout out to our producer, as we do each week, Jovi. Jovi's out there behind the scenes trying to move the transitions and the graphics and try to make us look good, which can be a challenge, especially for me, to try to make me look good, right? So Jovi, in advance, thank you for what you do. We couldn't do it without you. I also want to thank our founder of DPRS Media, Craig LeBlanc, and his over 500 podcasts that are impacting the park and recreation industry. I really want to thank him for allowing us the opportunity to host this weekly podcast solely on military recreation and the great work that's being done out there. Also, just a side note, we are doing some post-production on our episodes. I think about half of our episodes are on the YouTube channel. Just look under Daily Parks and Rec Show, and we have our own playlist, and it's great. And Jovi's been behind the scenes uploading the audio files to Spotify. I think almost all of our shows are, or past episodes are loaded on Spotify. So again, thank you, Jovi, for that. and just another way to consume your podcast. Okay, today's show sponsor once again is Outdoor Link. If you want to turn your entire city on and off with the swipe of a finger on an app, this is what Outdoor Link does. Outdoor Link builds smart cities connecting park lights, splash pads, fountains, scoreboards, bathroom door locks, anything powered by electricity into a simple app on your phone, tablet, or desktop that can be controlled from any location 24/7, 365 days a year. If you would like to learn more about Outdoor Link, tune in to the Smart Parks Forward show with Dave Ramirez on the second and fourth Monday at 1:30 Eastern Time on the DPRS network. We're going to see a couple short promos, of course, and then one near to my heart, JDP Services Management Consulting. So, with that, Joby, why don't you go ahead and take us to the promos, and we'll be right back.
JDP Services Management Consulting, supporting parks and recreation and the essential service they provide. Communities benefit greatly from having dedicated advocates who champion the value of play in open spaces. Such advocacy ensures that recreational areas are prioritized and managed in ways that enhance the overall quality of life for everyone. We are dedicated to fortifying public park and recreation agencies and other related organizations by taking a practical, engaged approach to consulting and training, addressing immediate needs while equipping clients with lasting insight and tools to strengthen their organizations for long-term success. JDP Services, Management Consulting, meeting needs and exceeding expectations.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
All right. Thanks, Joby. Appreciate it. We are back, and we're going to do our next segment because I really want to get to our guests today and talk about stress and stress management. So why don't you pull up the deck here, Joby, and we'll talk about what's happening around the world. As we do always. Again, we use the social media channels through the Armed Forces Recreation Network, part of NRPA, and we get cool stuff. You are part of that social network, and we encourage you, if you're in the business, to get involved. You see all these cool things coming across your feed. We deal with over 150 posts or reposts on our Facebook channel, and we do quite a few different things with the LinkedIn channel as well. So first of all, this past month, everything from Mother's Day to Military Spouse Appreciation Month, as it is, and on May 8th was uh, Military Spouse Appreciation Day as well. So lots of cool programming happening here. Obviously, this is kind of a youth fitness month as well. So again, lots going on. I'm just highlighting three programs here today. First of all, huge concert in Fort Riley, Kansas, this past weekend. Massive concert. They had a great time. They were posting. They did some fun reels, but wanted to highlight that out. There's quite a few different concert series that are happening here at a bunch of the military bases. Matter of fact, a lot of them out there are promoting their 4th of July, 250th anniversary. I mean, there's some really cool, big special events happening at military bases around the world this year. So please check it out. But yeah, Fort Riley, Kansas had a huge, huge, big concert. Lots of people turned out, and it was a good time. Up top, you can see Naval Air Station Sigonella, Italy, had a color run in support of sexual assault prevention awareness. Really cool event. Matter of fact, quite a few of these out there at different events, but this one caught my eye. Their pictures. These two are just two of many that were posted that just look like it was a great. No shortage of that color dust that they used for that color run. That's for sure. I mean, it was crazy how everybody was was covered that participated in that. Again, from Naval Air Station Sigonella, Italy, and then down below, this was a military spouse appreciation event. Looks like they're playing a little bingo and had some fun and games and food, and that was from Fort Polk, Louisiana. That's down in the lower right corner itself. So, just a couple things happen around the world. Again, lots more happening if you're part of those social channels. Okay, this one didn't turn out so well, I apparently, because everything's being cut off here. um, it looked good on the deck when I built it. I'm not sure what's happening now. So I don't know if there's a way to shrink that down or if that's just the way it's coming across, Jovi. But anyways, I'll explain this. This one's not from the social channels. I was lucky enough. I was out doing a little work on behalf of JDP Services Management Consulting out in San Diego for the Armed Services YMCA last week, and happened to connect with some of my Navy colleagues from the past, Navy Region Southwest and Naval Base San Diego, where they are hosting a pilot program right now for the entire Navy with human performance optimization. So, where they're really looking at the active duty member, the service member, and really focusing on mind, body, and spirit. So, yeah, mental health is a piece. They've got a cognitive learning specialist that's on board. They also are focusing on physical well-being and nutrition, all super important things that are there. And again, they're there at San Diego at Harborside Fitness, where they are right next to the fleet. So they've got access to literally tens of thousands of sailors coming in there, either off the ships or stationed there at Naval Base. And they're doing some really good stuff. So they gave us a whole full tour last Thursday afternoon. One thing I want to point out, you can kind of see the picture of us four, and in the middle, probably the best looking one of the bunch, you can see that's Jordan Ziff, who actually is another DPRS podcast host, and she's in the San Diego area. So one, got a chance to meet her, and I invited her on to the tour, and she was great. Being a professional athlete, college and professional athlete, she was soaking up everything they were talking about, and it was good to meet Jordan in person right there. And there she is in the middle. And again, she's got her show that pops up on the DPR's network as well, and it's Jordan's Athletes Commute, it's called. And more episodes to follow. So again, a little cross promotion going on here with this episode. We've got Thomas coming up who we're talking to, and we got Jordan. All good stuff under the DPRS Media umbrella. And I wish you could see the other pictures. They were pretty cool. One thing I do want to highlight over on the top, and I'm going to mention it as a best practice. I told them, the team there at San Diego, but you can see this is their nutrition specialist, who's just to the left of me, worked with their food outlet that's right off the pier. It's called Pier 13 Well Deck. And they put together a menu, and they've got he put his dietary stamp of approval on this, and he put healthy but very tasty food items on their menu, kind of endorsed by the HPO pilot program. It's got a calorie breakdown, nutrition breakdown on the items. Not to mention, it's just an attractive and looks like a really great menu. And if I had 5 more minutes, I probably would have ran over to Pier 13 Well Deck and ordered something over there because it looks so well. So there it is. You have your fitness team focused on human performance, working with the food and beverage team under that big MWR umbrella to offer healthy food items. That's a best practice all the way day around. Again, they're setting the bar. They're writing the playbook for the rest of the Navy related to human performance optimization. And kudos to them. And thank my colleagues from Navy Region Southwest, and certainly the quality of life team at Navy Base San Diego for the tour last week. So enough of that. And again, disappointed on the pictures. All right. Again, we mentioned it's Spotify. We are on Spotify. Just another way to consume. We're getting a lot of positive feedback on that. A lot of folks have time in the cars, and that's how they like to consume their podcast. And now you can tune in to On the Front Line or a number of DPRS podcasts to get that information. And then, of course, here's the Armed Forces Recreation Network information. We put up QR codes. I'll hold them on the screen, but you can participate in their meetings, join the Facebook channel if you'd like, or just search Armed Forces Recreation and on LinkedIn as well, and ask to join the group. We'd be happy to have you and be an active participant in those social media networks. One side note, the monthly meeting for May was canceled. Typically, that would have been tomorrow, but they have canceled it. A lot of people are in the middle of budgets and doing a lot of different things, but they've got a great episode. They're going to talk about observing the moon program that we worked with NASA on last year, and they're going to do it again this year. So the June meeting is on, and they've got a big topic talking about that NASA program, which you can implement for your kids and families really anywhere. It would be good for public parks and recreation. It's not strictly just military recreation, but good stuff. But the meeting tomorrow is canceled, just for your notification. So with that, Jovi, go ahead and pull up our guests. And as she's doing that, I want to kind of preface the episode today. Military life naturally brings stress due to the demanding mission, high operational tempo, consistently shifting conditions. And MWR professionals experience that pressure as well. Yet most have to uphold their responsibilities and provide top-notch programs and services to their clientele each and every day. So today we're going to explore effective strategies on how to handle stress, build some resilience, and learn how to adapt and rise above the challenges presented on both your daily life, which brings enough stresses, and of course the workplace, which gives you a host of stressors that we're going to talk about today. So with that, I want to introduce and welcome Dr. J. Trambadia, a clinical psychologist who helps individuals, teams, organizations tackle stress and burnout. He's focused on improving physical, psychological, and social health across the board. We also have with us as you can see, Thomas White, a DPRS media colleague. But he's the deputy administrator at Henry County's Georgia Parks and Recreation Department, and again, host of his own podcast, Safe Spaces in Green Spaces, on the first Wednesday at 1:30 each month. So, Jay, Thomas, welcome to the front line.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
All
Thank you so
right.
much.
Yeah, we always kind of get together. We just talk logistics. What's the show's going to be out in broad points, but I think we could have talked forever about stress and stress management because I think we all have some thoughts on it. I'm trying to figure out how to deal with it, and I think you two are probably be better suited to try to help me. So maybe it's going to be a help me session here in front of the world, or at least my tens of listeners out there.
Sure.
So, hey, want to start and kind of go around what your professional background, the one sentence intros don't really do justice to what you guys have been. And Jay, I'm going to start with you first. Tell me a little bit about your background and why you're in this territory of trying to help people, especially through parks and recreation and possibly using nature and our services to even help with that stress management.
Definitely. Thank you for having me, John, and thank you, Thomas, also for being here as well too. As a psychologist practicing for a pretty long time now. I started my career in training and was fortunate enough to work with a lot of our veterans in the VA. A lot of psychologists get a lot of training with VA and military as well too, which is a great experience to have. It's a very humbling experience and very complex as well too. So it started there. I was fortunate enough to do a little work with the Navy as well too in the past, and now and throughout my career, I've been embedded in large healthcare systems and practicing as a psychologist in large healthcare systems. And in our world, we're able to see a lot of the population from different spaces. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. I was able to spend a little bit of my career in South Florida, then North Carolina, and now I'm also in Georgia as well. And throughout my career, I've been helping people kind of not only manage stress from a psychological perspective, but kind of notice what kind of physical symptoms you're experiencing that may be leading to stress, or that might be because of stress. What kind of social symptoms are leading to stress, such as, job complications, workload, long hours, and in turn, what kind of social impacts are because of your stress? Are you staying home more often, so on and so forth? And obviously the emotional and cognitive symptoms of that as well too. And throughout my career, I've been honored to help so many people in individuals, groups, and so on. And recently, over the past few years, been able to help large organizations like NRPA as well too, and MWR over the past few years, and that's been a very, very enlightening experience as well too, being able to have a session at the conference a few years ago in Atlanta, and doing a few webinars for the group as well too, and to see the reception of taking home tangible tools, and a lot of people saying, "Whoa, is that normal?" Okay, well, I feel a little normal, which we want to normalize a lot of the stress that's going on, and I know we've been through a lot of changes, adjustments. 6 years ago, we're going through the pandemic that changed not only the country, the world, and a few years ago, a lot of changes in staffing and staffing shortages and budgets and so forth. So just working on the adjustment and stress piece of that. So I'm happy to be here today. Thank you both for having me.
Yeah, and right now you're based out of Atlanta?
Yes, sir. Yes, out of Atlanta.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, my condolences on that. Just joking, just joking. Had to throw that little Georgia twist in here since I'm being dominated by Georgia people here today. All right, Thomas. So you're a Parks and Rec guy, and you have this podcast here called um, Safe Spaces and Green Spaces. So uh, tell us a little bit about your journey, and maybe why you've been invited to be on this show and why you're hosting a podcast on this topic.
Cool. You have touched on quite a thing for me to tell you about my journey. I'll summarize first because there's a point to this. I have 20 years of experience in local and state government leadership, 8 years experience in political and strategic communication, working with 17 different campaigns, two as general chairman, 8 years experience in legislative strategy and advocacy, two of those years spent at the Georgia General Assembly as an education advocate. I have 6 years experience in political strategy and 6 years experience in nonprofit leadership. I have a master's of public administration, a bachelor's in political science. I've published 4 books. I speak at conferences and workshops across the nation. Now, why am I telling you this? Is it because I'm a narcissist? Yes, 100%. That is part of it. And I definitely wanted to brag on myself. But no, I'm telling you this because I was a college dropout or flunk out, actually. I was a guy who spent my first year of college partying and drinking and flunked out of college. I was 3 weeks from homelessness, 3 weeks from homelessness, unable to pay my rent when I took the first job that was open to me. I worked at a prison, and for the next 13 years, I worked with the Georgia Department of Corrections. My last detail was the acting chief of security at the High Max in Jackson, Georgia, right down from Atlanta. I have been stabbed, hit in the head with a lock, thrown down a flight of stairs. I had 21 inmates jump on me. I had 2 spine surgeries and a shoulder surgery before I turned 34. All this time, through all that, I was working to try to change my life around. So I was dealing with the stress of work and dealing with the stress of trying to change my life around where I had screwed up when I was younger. Obviously, that stress compounded, and I wound up dealing with a lot of issues later on that I was burying: PTSD, untreated ADHD, a traumatic brain injury from 2017, and possibly another one from being some of the other incidents I was in that was just never diagnosed. There's just piles and piles of stuff that was piling up on me, and finally, in 2021, I left the Department of Corrections. That last week in the Department of Corrections, I had feces and urine thrown on me 4 times, and finally said, "That's enough. That's enough." I left the Department of Corrections and took a part-time job with the commissioner. I was making $18 an hour, I believe, 17 or $18 an hour, working 20 hours a week just to get my foot in the door. A year and 9 months later, I was promoted to Deputy Administrator of Recreation, where I now oversee 130 staff, 6 facilities, and over 110 programs. I changed my life around, and it was because of Parks and Recreation. And Parks and Recreation has been there for me through some of my darkest times, because yes, I may have escaped that prison, but 2 years after I started with Parks and Recreation, I had the deepest, most complex mental health breakdown that I'd ever had. And we'll get into that later and talk about the stress, but that's a little bit about me, and that's why you're going to feel my passion in this show. It's why I believe in safe spaces and green spaces, because I've been there. I have been in the pit of darkness, and it has been a pit of darkness created by my own bad decisions, and saw the light and figured out a way to get out. And Parks and Rec was a big part of that.
Yeah, yeah, wow.
Greg told you I had a story. I gave you the abbreviated version.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Really incredible, and we'll talk more about that. I guess I'm glad we can talk about this because I come from an era where this wasn't talked about. People had stressors. People had real issues related to dealing with a multitude of things, whether it's your own family life, whether it's other extenuating circumstances, not to mention the pressures of a job. And it doesn't matter; it goes any industry. But we didn't talk about that. We had to suck it up, and be tough and not show that we're vulnerable. And so the ability to be able to talk about this because they're real issues and real concerns for people and how to manage them.
I worked in a prison system where everyone had the idea that, hey, we all have PTSD, so why are you complaining?
Yeah, yeah. There's always something traumatic in somebody's life. Is messy,
Yeah.
and it's messy for everyone. Doesn't matter if you're well off or in the worst case scenario. There's stressors, there's problems for everybody, and hopefully we'll talk about it. So, Jay, why don't you tell me a little bit about, since you're the clinical psychologist here, we're going to consider you the pro on the team here. What's going on today that you're seeing from standpoint of people dealing with stress and stressful environments, and how are they managing it? And are they just looking for the services of clinical psychologists, or what? Give us a flavor of what's happening out there today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in like every industry, there's a lot going on. And, from what Thomas, said, there's a lot that sticks out from his story. And one of the things is awareness, right? I think that that's going to be the big one. And John, you were talking about it just a moment ago as well, too, that in a previous generation, previous decades, maybe there wasn't the insight to want to be aware, or even if we were aware, we had to pick ourselves by the bootstraps and just keep going, right? And I think, recently we've kind of, over the past 10 years, worked on the stigma of that we are normalizing. There's, like you said, life is messy, and everybody has some stuff going on. And how do we deal with that stuff? So I think one of the things that we have to be aware of is the awareness, is the insight of where am I right now? And everybody's living in seasons, and seasons can be a couple of months. It could be a couple of years. And I know, Thomas talking about, working in the system for, a very, very long time. That could have been that as well, too. So being aware is first. I think that's what we have to kind of look at is where am I, and how am I doing? There may be so many challenges, especially for the military recreational professionals, right? Staffing shortages, budget changes, long hours, constant demand, and having to not only balance, their leadership positions in different places, or their work positions in different places, but the community needs as well too. What are the community needs, and am I serving them enough? Different schedules, different deployments. And another thing that I like to point out from what Thomas says, what I got was also pivoting and adjusting as well too. And how do we pivot and how do we adjust? And I think adjusting and pivoting caused a lot of stress to start with, right? We had to do it. And I bring up the pandemic, and we all had to do it for different reasons. I had some I had some parents that are telling me, well, now I'm the teacher, the cafeteria manager, and the mom and dad. Where do I change my times? Where's my role changing? And on top of that, I got to be in front of a computer and work as well too. So a lot of changes there. And
I think if I jump in here, if you didn't get PTSD from COVID alone, I think that struck everybody.
It got everybody. I tell people, unless you were around for the 1919 flu, this was new for you, and you had to kind of adjust. But I also think that
I was actually there at the last pandemic. That's how old I am.
You were there. Yeah. No, you were running a podcast then too, right? So
yeah.
I think there's a lot of other changes too. I think that we're seeing a shift in our brains kind of continuing to be on, right? And in the past, a lot of people, let's say 3 decades ago, we're looking at 1996. a lot of people had jobs where they worked at 8 o'clock and then came home at 5:30, checked the mail, and kind of, watched their one or two
clocked out.
Clocked out, watched their one or two sitcoms, had to sit down at the kitchen table, pay the bills, do family life, but it was off. And now we have these computers on our hips that we're always on, checking emails, checking phone calls, checking text. And I have a lot of people that I see that are doing that all the way to midnight, and they have clocked out at 5 o'clock, at 6 o'clock. So I think
my wife was just getting on to me last night for that very thing. So
and just kind of having that piece, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the idea of us being on. And I was talking to somebody earlier today about how do we bring our brain from excitable to kind of wind down and calmness, and it's very difficult on a nonstop, always on brain, So I would love to hear your thoughts about that as well.
Yeah, Thomas, what do you think about that? Are we on too much? Are we always working?
Perfect segue into what happened with me. So you talked first. I want to before we go into that, I want to highlight something that you said about awareness. So I feel like my body was trying to tell me something was going on. I was having symptoms before I actually had what I call my breakdown. I would go to the grocery store, and this was when I was still working at the prison. I would go to the grocery store, and I would doesn't matter if it was the regular register or the self-checkout line, I would start sweating. I would get really fatigued and irritated. My hands would start shaking. Especially if I had to wait. It would be 10 times worse if I had to wait. My wife and I assumed, I take that back. I assumed, she said something was going on from the beginning, but I assumed that my sugar was dropping. Diabetes is prevalent in my family. I thought that's what was happening. So I would grab a Dr. Pepper, go to the car, drink the Dr. Pepper, and I would be fine, not realizing that I'm feeling better because I removed myself from that situation. It was 2 years in before I realized I was having panic attacks, and they were getting worse and worse because being in a prison system, being trapped, having to wait, surrounded by people, that is something that doesn't happen. So when I was in that grocery store checkout line, which is so crowded, so tight, I can't get out because I have to wait. I have to go through all these steps. It was triggering those panic attacks, and it took 2 years before I started to realize that that's what it was. And then another several months of therapy before we really broke it down. And I have known for years that I had ADHD, but always thought I could manage it. No problem. I'd done pretty well. Granted, I flunked out of college because of massive impulse control issues. But you know what? Other than that, I managed it. I got my bachelor's degree. I was finishing my master's. No problem. Didn't need anything.
Yeah.
Not thinking about that traumatic brain injury, which was to my frontal lobe, and ADHD being a underdevelopment, well, in most cases, underdevelopment of the prefrontal cortex. That's entirely possible. The traumatic brain injury made it worse. And I looked back and started noticing about 6-7 months after the wreck, where I had the traumatic brain injury, that's when I started noticing symptoms getting worse and worse, especially impulsivity and decision-making. But I ignored it. Again, all this was unpacked because of months and months of therapy and working with a psychiatrist and a psychologist that got me there. But in September 2023, yes, I believe it was September 2023, yes, I had worked 26 weekends straight without a single day off. I had worked, I was working 50, 60 hours. I was very passionate about my job in Parks and Rec. It was so much better than the prison that to me, it wasn't really a job. So I was constantly working even when I thought I wasn't working. I wasn't shutting my mind off. My computer was always up, always answering social media. I was trying to build our social media brand, by the way, which succeeded. But anyway, we'll talk about that another time. During that period leading up to it, those last 6 months, 6 months to a year before the breakdown. I wrote all 4 of my 4 books during that period, all 4 of them. And of course, going through the process of publishing and all that too. It was just a lot. It was a lot. I wasn't aware that things were getting worse. I began to become more aware end of July, 1st of August. And then 2, I wasn't ever shutting my brain down. I was never taking a break. I was constantly and stressing that, working beyond our capacity. My episode that we had last week, Lori Harris from the president of Superpowers for Good, talked a lot about the brain's capacity and what happens when we reach that capacity, that our brain just starts to shut down. And finally, it was a very inane thing that sent me over the edge. But when that little thing happened, it sent me spiraling to the point that I lost 30 pounds in less than a month, stopped eating, obviously, stopped sleeping. And it was only my work environment and obviously my wife as well, but my friends here at work and us having an open space here at work that got me through that. But I know we have to take a break. So,
no, we do. I think we need to turn the conversation now to, hey, what maybe are those triggers that we can look for? What are those signs? And then maybe how best to cope with them so we don't get to that point. Because Thomas, you're making a case for, holy cow, you got to a very dangerous situation. And how do we catch that beforehand? So we are going to take a quick break.
Honestly, it was amazing that I was never suicidal during the time, just because the depth of the depression. If it wasn't for my wife, I honestly believe she was the only reason. Plus, I enjoyed my job. If it wasn't for those 2 reasons, it's just amazing to me that I wasn't suicidal.
Yeah, no doubt. It's nice to have family, a spouse that can watch over you and take care of you, and that's a good thing. So we're going to take a quick break. Jovi's going to run a couple promos. We're going to be back and talk a lot more about this stuff when we get back. Thank you.
It didn't start with a big studio. It didn't start with a massive audience. It started with a simple idea. One conversation, one camera, one episode. Back then, DPRS Media Network was just a vision. No guarantees, no roadmap, just a purpose. To tell stories that mattered. Stories from the Parks and Recreation community. Stories of leadership, passion, impact, and the people making a difference every single day. Episode by episode, that vision began to grow. More conversations, more voices, more people who believed in what we were building. What started as a show became something much bigger. A place where people felt seen. A place where ideas were shared. A place where the Parks and Rec community could connect, learn, and inspire one another. And today, we celebrate a major milestone. 500 episodes. 500 stories, 500 moments, 500 reasons to keep moving forward. But this is not the finish line. This is the beginning of our next chapter. In the months ahead and in the years to come, DPRS Media Network is growing into something even greater. We are building something truly special for the Parks and Recreation community. Something designed to bring people closer, to create stronger connections, to open new opportunities, and to continue serving the people who inspire everything we do. We are also expanding our reach through new partnerships, working with organizations who believe in our mission, partners who share our vision for community, leadership, and impact. And beyond the screen, we're showing up in more places than ever before, attending conferences, meeting leaders face-to-face, building connections that strengthen our community. Because DPRS has never been just about content. It has always been about connection. To everyone who has been with us, from episode 1 to episode 500, thank you. This milestone belongs to all of you. Here's to how it all started. And here's to everything still to come. The future of DPRS Media Network starts now.
All right, we are back. Thomas was giving us a pretty good rundown of some of the things he had, and talking about signs and triggers and things like that. Jay, what do you see out there? What are some of the things that are those early warning signs or triggers that we can all watch for to know, maybe I need to step back. Maybe I may need a mental health day or a week or a month to try to get right before it's too serious.
Yeah. And, this kind of jumps off of the awareness piece we were talking about and what Thomas was talking about with seeing his triggers. It took him a little while to kind of understand the panic attacks, the grocery store scenario kind of helped him see that. And there are a variety of blocks of different categories of signs and symptoms we can notice, right? When it comes to physical signs and symptoms, we see a lot with fatigue. All right, fatigue, tiredness. I'm actually physically exhausted, but I'm also just exhausted in itself, and it just never stopping. That so many weekends without a break and so forth kind of sticks out to me. A lot of another thing that you might see is headaches, pain, GI pain as well too, stomach pain. You see that from a lot of children at times, right? When they're younger, when they don't want to go to school, their stomachs start hurting. Well, sometimes it's actually real physical symptoms because the brain and gut kind of go together, and they have an important connection there. So you see that as well. Headaches, a lot of tension, headaches as well too. And that could be from physically, just being on a computer, but also it can be because of the nonstop stress that we're having as well. One of the other things physically that we notice is us getting sick. Just a common cold, right? If you notice, there's a lot of research done with this. 2 of the most sickly weeks on a college campus are in May and December when it's finals time. Finals, right? And so people are staying up late, they're stressed, they're not eating well, there's no movement going on, you have less social support. All these things are jumping into the stress realm. So basically that stress hits our immune system, depletes it. And I always tell my patients, you want your military, which is your immune system, to always be awake. And what we do when we have too much stress is we put our military to bed. And I don't know about you, but I don't want my military to be sleeping, So, right. So I started kind of with that analogy with my veterans, where I saw a long time ago. So that's one of the physicals. Emotional, you'll see it. You feel stress. You feel like there's just so many things. You can't stop controlling worry. You feel frustrated. You feel irritable. You're short with people. So that's kind of more the emotional pieces. You might have cognitive signs like fogginess. I can't remember well, forgetfulness, reduced patience for things. When you maybe a year ago, you were okay for being patient about getting something, but the extra frustration, irritability, a lot of decision fatigue. I know my friends in the military have to make a lot of important decisions for a lot of people. And what I've noticed, and what I've actually talked to somebody at the in our PA conference, was that the decision, like, I'm just overwhelmed, I'm just overloaded, and then you might start seeing some behavioral signs, right? Skipping meals, avoiding social situations that you used to go to, Thanksgiving, going to watch a ball game, like you're used to watch a ball game every weekend with your buddies, and you've kind of fallen off and not gone all season. Reduced motivation, just kind of that apathy, just like whatever, kind of feeling. So all of these are important to kind of take a look at. Substance use is another one that you want to take a look at as well too, for everybody as well. So these kind of fit in different categories, but we want to be aware of each of them, because for some people it'll be easily noticeable, right? For somebody like me, I'm very social, and if I'm staying in the house and not being social, or not even wanting to plan some social things, my red light should go up, and so should my support system. So just kind of a few of those that are pretty common.
Yeah. You talk about finals week at college. Something that triggers that stress, which is natural and it makes total sense. Just for our audience, I mean, there are some things in the military, and specifically MWR, quality of life professionals that support our military and families. They're part of the team, they're civilians, but they deal with some of these stressors. One of them is just the pace of play, as I like to call it, in our world. The operation tempo on a military base, at times, not all the time. Again, it depends what's going on in the world, what's going on in the particular purpose of that military base or their training or whatever. But that pace of play is incredible. I mean, you are expected to deliver. And yes, our military is 24/7, 365 days a year. That's what they signed up for, to protect, defend, do what they need to do. But you, as a team member of a military group, supporting that military group, even as a civilian, and although we work on a 40-hour a week, pay scale, the bottom line is the demands are crazy to deliver and stay up with the constant change and various other things. So that's, to me, an MWR professional, that whole pace of play, operation tempo, constant change is probably the biggest stressor that I've seen in my 39 years, with many other colleagues. The other thing is relocation. I'm kind of the oddball. I did my internship at Naval Station Great Lakes for 16 weeks. I thought I was there for 16 weeks. I'd do something else. They offered me a job at the end of my internship. I took the job, and 16 weeks turned into 34 years, and I never left. That is very, very odd in our world, because typically to move up, you move out and on, and you're not forced to transfer. It's kind of a network, and we have 300 bases all over the world. So typically you move around. So relocation is kind of a stressor, because, yeah, if you do want to move up, typically every 4 to 5 to 6 years, you might have to move to another location to jump up in your career. So that's another one. Deployments for the military create a stress in the quality of life world, because we have serious demands. One, making sure those sailors, soldiers, Marines, airmen get off and do their thing, but then they have the families behind, the spouses, the children, and how do we support them, because they need it the most at that time. Again, huge stressor in there. So just want to paint the picture for our audience that there are some unique stressors for our MWR, Armed Forces Recreation professionals out there. So I'm past that after 39 years. How can you help me, Dr. J?
Look, you're absolutely right. These demands are nonstop. And thankfully we have people like you in our world that are taking care of other service members and making sure that the families and everybody has the best improved quality of life. So we thank you for that, because we know there's a lot that goes behind the scenes. But you're absolutely right. These specific areas like deployment, adjustment in job change and location change, and just the staffing changes like we just talked about, that plays a huge picture, and we have to be very aware of all the aspects that come along with that. Like, just let's talk about a move from I don't know, I'm just making this up, okay, from Detroit to St. Louis, right? And so you're moving from one area to another area. There's a lot of things changes. Obviously your job changes, the people you work with change, how am I getting to work, all these different things, buying a home, renting a home, having a place to stay. How does my family fit into all of this, right? How do they, with new schools, new positions, and so on and so forth, and how are they fitting into that community, right? Not just you kind of have your community because you're going to work, and that's kind of your new community. They're welcoming you, hopefully. But everybody in your family is also having to change as well too. And for a lot of people, I'm guessing, I'm assuming that a lot of people in this network empathize with their family members and feel for their family members, and are stressed for their family members having to pick up and move as well too. So that's a great point you made on doing that, and kind of what Thomas pointed out before is having that support system. I think that one of the things that, and we can talk about this on a whole different show, but one of the things that I'm diving into a little bit myself as a clinician, but also as a human in society, is what does support look like nowadays? Is it just text messaging? Is it that we're so used to text messaging or social media chatting that we're losing, or virtual, that we're losing the one-on-one, the human touch, the human element that has worked for a very, very, very long time, So I think support system and how we get support, and how does support work for us, is going to be important as well too, to kind of jump into. And I know during COVID, a lot of people had different ways of support and so forth. And for me, I'm going to be very honest, like for a little while, the virtual was okay. But after a little while, I was yearning for a backyard barbecue, and and so I think another thing is support system, and how we can rally around not just our family and friends, but the people we work with, our neighbors, the grocery store clerks, everybody, So
Yeah. And to amp on that move, you use the example Detroit to St. Louis. Some of our moves are from Jacksonville to, Naples, Italy. They're moving overseas. We have many locations, and that's a whole nother dynamic of challenges to move from continental United States to overseas. Again, just to foot stomp that. Thomas, what are your thoughts, especially when coping? What are some of the opportunities we can cope with those stressors? We've clearly defined they're in our life, one way, one how. It is, they're there. So how do we best cope with them?
So one of the biggest reasons that I tell my story the way that I do, I always, whenever I'm at a conference or something, I always give the long list of everything that I've been through. And then immediately after that, I do the whole narcissist line, and then say, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the audience I'm with.
You do that narcissist line very well, by the way.
Yeah, that's because it's authentic, John. That's why it's authentic. But sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't. And then, of course, I go into the shocker, which is that I was 3 weeks from homelessness. I flunked out of college and started working at a maximum security prison. That's the shocker. But one of the big reasons, other than the hook to grab people's attention, of course, is one, to illustrate how far I've come, but also two, is to illustrate that because usually what comes next is telling my story of my breakdown in 2023. I had problems when I was a failure. I had problems when I was at the height of my success. In both places, I had problems that looked very, very similar to each other. The biggest thing that I noticed about coping with all of it is, one, first, admitting that it's there. Oftentimes we try to hide what we're going through. Like I said, for years, I was diagnosed much younger with ADHD. I knew that I had it, but never really took never took account for it. Just kept trying to live. Impulsivity was just a thing, whatever. I did it, not taking steps to try to build those neural pathways that would help me manage with that, CBT, all that, never taking the steps to it. But so that first part was awareness. I say that I was a failure, and people say, no, you weren't a failure. But the thing is, At some point, we have all been a failure. You cannot be more until you admit that you failed, because if not, you're going to be disillusioned. You're going to keep making yourself think that nothing's wrong. You have to admit that there was a problem before you can cope with the problem that's there, before you can move on, before you can come up with strategies. And I talk about leadership, and one of the biggest parts of leadership is realizing that you have to get past your ego, that you have to put that aside. And I think a lot of that is the same with when you're facing your own mental health. You have to be able to admit that you are flawed.
Yeah.
And coming to terms with the fact that you are flawed can often be such an emotional experience that it's a turmoil all into itself.
Easier said than done, right?
Right. I mean, it's literally a mental gauntlet that you have to go through,
Yeah.
especially if you're trying to do it without the guidance of a therapist or somebody else with the support system. Fortunately, therapy helped me get to where I couldn't get on my own, because I realized it, but then I didn't know where to go after that. And fortunately, therapy, CBT, a little bit of medication, but helped me to get past that and get to where I was going. So being open with yourself, but then also being open with others. And that's why I try to do the Safe Spaces with Green Places podcast. My work environment, when I came in, everybody knew that first week something was going on. Because again, ADHD, very hyper, very energetic. You're not really seeing it right now, but that's because I ate right before I came on here. And so the little should not have done that.
Do you have a Dr. Pepper?
No, right. Normally my energy is much higher right now, but I ate the wrong lunch to come on here and do this. But anyway, everybody noticed that first week. And then, of course, as the weight loss happened more and more, finally, my coworkers came to me, and it was my supervisors that came to me. It was like, hey, and my colleagues, what is going on? And they encouraged me to talk about it. And suddenly work became a support system for me.
Yeah.
And we always, every company, everybody has the whole we're a family thing. Everybody does that. But I had never truly experienced that until I was in this workplace. And because of that, I have been able to thrive and do things that I never thought possible for me to do. I mean, I'm sitting on this podcast right now. I didn't know who John Prue was when I flunked out of college and I was at the end of homelessness. I never thought that I would be on a podcast. Hell, we didn't know what a podcast was back then, but still, that's not the point.
I started before the internet, so.
Right. There you go. But
all right, Thomas, thank you. I want one more last thing. We're running up on the hour. We should have extended this, or maybe we'll do stress management part 2. That's what we really need to be doing. But Jay, I want you to finish out here. Give me your top 1, 2, 3. How best to what's the best advice when you feel overwhelmed at work? And so we only got about a minute or two left.
I'm gonna hit it to keep it the basics. I think communication with our support system, like Thomas said, at work, right? Like if things aren't working, a good communicative relationship is going to be important. We used to do that a lot, right? When we were at school and we didn't understand something or we didn't know how to do something, we would communicate. Whether it's you're playing, Little League baseball, or you're trying to learn something in algebra in high school, the communication was there. And I think that we have to stay communicative at work to understand where we depleted. And where can I help somebody else as well too, right? So kind of helping each other out in that work environment. That's the real family that we're talking about, right? And, hey, I'm so busy with this right now over the next month. Do you mind just picking up this for me and maybe dividing them? Who's good at what? So understanding who's good at what in your support system. That's one. I really hone in on that from what Thomas said as well too. Secondly, we have to focus on rest and rejuvenation. And I think that this is more and more and more research is happening with sleep, right? Everything happens during our sleep. And we've been taught for a very long time, 4 and 5 hours is enough. We can keep it going, but our bodies don't know that. Our bodies don't know the stress, right? Our bodies were built a long time ago without knowing the stress. And so we have to rejuvenate our bodies. And third, and I tell my patients love when I tell them that, is you have to find some fun in your life. Go find some fun that's happening that you can sprinkle throughout the day a little bit, maybe 2 minutes here, 5 minutes here, and then maybe a couple of hours on the weekend or at nighttime. So I prioritize a little bit of pleasant activities. That could be a hot bath at the end of the day, or that could be hanging out and going to a baseball game with your buddies, find some of these small things that we can interject. And I always call it as in refueling your tank a little bit, right? It's easier to refuel a little bit by little bit every day and every week and having those things. So enjoyment, social connection and support. And 3 is sleep and rest.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I appreciate what you're saying. I always like to say, eat right and exercise. That goes a long way. It goes back to taking care of the, mind, body, and spirit. And if you do that, you're going to be in okay shape to move forward in life. So, with that, Thomas, go ahead.
I do want to say one thing. On June 3rd at 1:30 p.m., I'm inviting both of you to come on to Safe Spaces and Green Spaces, and maybe we can have a part 2 to this.
Sounds good.
All right.
I'll talk to my scheduler, which is me. Sounds good. Hey, thanks, guys. That's it for today on the Front Line. And again, thanks to Jay and Thomas and their amazing story, journey in our profession, and what they shared here today. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, with another great episode. So on behalf of all of us at DPRS Media and On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show, I'm John Prue. We are out here.
In the parks and recreation industry, attention is limited, but influence is everything. Every day, thousands of parks and recreation professionals make critical decisions. Decisions on infrastructure, programs, technology, and vendors. The question is your brand part of that conversation? DPRS Media Network was built to answer that question. We are a dedicated media ecosystem focused exclusively on the parks and recreation industry in the United States. Through a network of daily and weekly shows, we inform, connect, and influence this audience. Our distribution spans multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, plus email campaigns, newsletters, podcasts, and live event coverage. This is not a single-channel strategy. It is a multi-platform media engine. Today, our network reaches over 214,000 connections, including 51,000 on LinkedIn, 64,000 on Facebook, nearly 40,000 email subscribers, and thousands more across podcast and social platforms. While some audiences overlap, our true value is not just reach, it is relevance. We speak directly to parks and recreation directors, program managers, and industry leaders, an audience that is highly targeted and actively engaged. Through DPRS Media Network, your brand integrates seamlessly into this ecosystem. Through sponsored show segments, targeted advertisement placements, podcast features, and host-read promotions, even custom branded content. Not as interruptions, but as part of the conversation. And we don't just operate online. We attend over 15 major parks and recreation conventions each year, reaching more than 24,000 professionals in person. Through live shows, interviews, and on-site media coverage, we position our partners at the center of the industry. Every piece of content we produce is amplified across our entire network. Multiple shows, multiple hosts, multiple platforms. Your message doesn't appear once, it multiplies. This is more than advertising. It is strategic positioning within a trusted media network built specifically for the parks and recreation industry. If your goal is to reach decision makers, build credibility, and stay top of mind, then it's time to partner with DPRS Media Network. Apply for partnership or sponsorship today. Let's position your brand where the industry is already paying attention. Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product? Growing your presence in public spaces? Targeting cities, counties, or departments? DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.